Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Agency Mastery Series. We're starting just a few minutes early. We're giving folks a few more minutes to pop on in. But in the meantime, just wanted to say hello and see where everybody is joining us from. So if you want to pop into the chat and let us know where you're tuning in from, we'd love to hear it.
Hey, everybody. Chris from
Hey,
98 Social here, and we're from sunny Jupiter, Florida. It's a cold 80 degrees here today.
Nice. Yeah, it's. I think we're sitting at a solid 10.
I mean,
Yesterday
one
was
of the benefits of living in Florida is the fact that we can brag that we're in Florida. So,
right. You get that all that sunshine weather.
Yep.
Ooh, we got some Myrtle Beach.
Yeah.
All right. I'm sure you're enjoying fairer weather than we are. I'm sitting here in Boulder. I saw somebody, unfortunately, just eat it on the sidewalk. It's icy out there.
From the ice, yeah.
Yeah.
Looks like there was a huge storm. It just took out like half the country, just wiped through everything. You guys probably got hit pretty hard in Colorado, I bet.
Well, we've been doing this cycle thing. So it'll be, 10, 20 degrees and we'll get snow, and then
50,
60, it melts, turns into slop, and lather, rinse, repeat. Okay, so we got Tammy joining us from Denver as well.
Yeah, you got a couple of Colorado.
Yeah. And folks, we realize and acknowledge that the president is going to be giving an address here shortly. So didn't anticipate that happening, obviously, but as folks tune in, or if you need to jump off, please don't worry. We will be sending out a recorded version of this discussion to everybody. I know it's important to stay on top of our current events. We're just going to hang out for another minute or so, give the last folks straggling to come in, and then we will get started.
I think I saw a dog wandering around in the background.
Yeah, Ryan, our founder's dog, likes to come in and
nice.
Just hangs out.
I know we're awesome.
We just got a little puppy at home over Christmas, so we're still waiting for him to get to a point where he can come in and be an office dog as well.
Awesome.
Do you have any pets, Chris?
I do. We have a Shepherd Lab mix. He's about 8 years old. His name's Charlie.
Nice.
Excuse us.
Yours is a Shepherd Border Collie mix.
Nice. Love that.
Yeah, Jennifer, that's it's a good mix too. It's too smart, still too smart for his own good.
And high energy.
Yeah. But you can find him on @BookOfBobaTFet on Instagram.
Oh, he's got his own Instagram, of course.
Of course he does.
You work at a social media company, definitely.
Right, that's kind of a good one. Speaking of which, it is 11:30, so we want to respect everyone's time. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Chris with the Cloud Campaign team, and we are here today with Chris Heuwetter from 98 Bucks Social. We're going to be talking about how to create a scalable digital agency with white label software as a service. So before we get into it, I do want to give you, Chris, the chance to introduce yourself, tell everyone who you are, what you do.
Sure. Thanks, Chris. My name is Chris Heuwetter, CEO and founder of 98 Bucks Social. We're a national social media agency. We were founded in 2015, and we specialize in low-cost social media management services. We use Cloud Campaign as a backbone to our operation. We have nearly 40 employees. We have well over 1,000 clientele all throughout the country and the world. And we're a huge fan of Cloud Campaign. And I'm very excited to be on this call today and help anybody in any way they need assistance. We are known as being a big reseller in the industry. We work with a lot of other marketing agencies. We do the backbone of their work. And also we have the 98 Bucks Social Academy, which actually teaches others our scalable business model. So anybody looking to offer low-cost social media services, we have that as well.
Nice. And Kevin in chat is singing your praises too. So thanks for that, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin. Much appreciated.
So, always spread the love.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting topic because we are talking about reselling software, and obviously we're positioned to kind of help agencies do that. But really, we want to be able to transfer this knowledge and this business model to other agencies because we feel like it can really help agencies grow. So, Chris, I'd be curious. before we really dive into it, like SaaS is kind of a jargony term. I would love to hear like your definition of how would you define SaaS?
Yeah, so the way I look at it, and I'm a little bit of a Gen Xer. So going back to earlier software days, we had to download software onto our computer. Every year there'd be a new version of it. We'd have to buy it and install it. So I look at SaaS as kind of more web-based applications that you can subscribe to on a monthly basis. You never have to update them. And they're generally software services that allow you to fulfill business needs, any type of operation flow, workflows, anything that will enhance your processes and systems to create efficiencies in the company. It really can cross the gamut, from anywhere from just something that helps the company scale to something the actual end user can use, one of your clients. But I look at it nowadays as a web-based application that we're pretty much paying for monthly on a subscription basis.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty typical.
Mm-hmm.
So then, like, you have your software. I'm sure everybody on this call has used software as a service. They subscribe to a service and they use it. Spotify is an example. SEMrush is also an example.
Mm-hmm.
Going from like entertainment to tools, functional tools. So then there's this additional piece, white labeling, and I think that might even be just like another step removed of like, well, what is that? You've got a lot of experience with white labeling software. So I'd love to hear sort of your experience rolling in that into your operations.
Sure. So we look at white label as taking the work of another person and pretty much presenting it as your own. So in Cloud Campaign's example, we have Cloud Campaign as the software backbone of 98 Bucks Social, but we present it as 98 Bucks Social software. It has our name on it. It generally doesn't say Cloud Campaign on it. So the white label aspect is the white part of it is that we can put our label on a different product. Now that could be services. So like 98 Bucks Social, we offer white label social media management services, meaning that we do the work, but the client takes essentially the credit for it. So all the work is done under our client or agency brand names flag, and they don't know we exist. Now that's not always the case, but for the most part, it's generally true that they don't know that there is an underlying layer of it that's actually doing the work or who created the product.
Yeah. And I'm curious, this is an interesting way of doing business, and I would love to know why you decided to pursue this as a business model.
Yeah, so I really feel like we're entering the golden age of advertising and software and the ability to create and recreate and sell the same thing over and over again, create it once and resell it, So that's why software as a service is so attractive, because you can create something once and then you can just sell it over and over and over again. So we kind of have a hybrid model. We see a huge demand for social media management. There's been an absolute explosion in the small business population. There were a record-breaking number of small businesses open last year alone. And we see a huge demand for social media, one, because some people just simply don't want to do it. They don't know how to do it, or they just don't care to do it. So that's a huge portion of these small business owners. They know what they know what they want to work on. And half the time social media isn't something they're interested in. So with such a large demand, we saw that as jumping and capitalizing on that demand, but also crossing it with a software like a Cloud Campaign and coming up with a hybrid model, which is almost a done for you service combined with a SaaS product, which is what we see ourselves as a hybrid model.
Nice. So that involves doing like direct services with your clients, but also you have another sort of profit center where you're able to create a sort of a reseller model too. And that's more of just, is it accurate to say like more like set it and forget it? Like you have this kind of, the customers that come on there that are reselling for you are sort of handling all of their clients and their onboarding and all that stuff?
Sure. We still have to do the fulfillment part of it. We're still creating the content, but they definitely handle a large portion of the communications with the client and the selling. And I think there's a little confusion in the industry what a true white label relationship looks like. Some people might think that just because you're white label, that means will handle the communication as well. And that's nor here nor there. There are some companies that are fully equipped to be able to handle the communication on your behalf, but oftentimes that's not the norm, that you'll still need to maintain the client relationship, communications, and the selling, but a lot of the work is done for you. And then we also see the software part of being a huge part of not just a profit center, but a retention aspect as well. Because once they're loaded up onto a software, they have their social media accounts connected, they learn how to use it themselves. So we're maybe supplementing their posts, and they're doing their own unique posts once or twice a month. There's a little bit of a retention aspect to having the SaaS piece in it.
Yeah. You brought up an interesting point too, that there's a lot of small business owners out there that either don't care, don't know how, or don't have the time to manage their social media accounts. So if you're trying to like pursue this as a business model, or roll this business model into your existing operations, do you have any maybe advice for somebody who's maybe trying to break into that approach?
Yeah,
Maybe
absolutely. Yeah, I talk about a lot of this in the academy because I find this area super interesting. And it really depends in the beginning how well capitalized you are, right? So if you're coming out of the gate and you don't have a lot of money, I think there are a lot of great strategies to tap into your local market. We see ourselves using Google My Business to doing a local search in a niche that you're interested in. So it could be dentistry, it could be your local painters or roofers. We love home services, realtors, and hitting them up by email, Facebook Messenger. And we often like to do a quick little audit. So we take a look at their Facebook page and see if they've posted recently. So 9 times out of 10, if they haven't posted in the last month, they're not doing so well on social media. So it makes a nice little intro. Hey, I was just looking at your Facebook. I see you haven't posted in a couple of weeks. I'd love to help you out. We can start off at a low price point or whatever it may be, just to get your foot in the door and then grow from there. Now, if you're a little more capitalized, I think Facebook advertising is a fantastic way to go. If you have a strong value add, whether you're niching down to a specific industry or you have an attractive price point like us, we do a general broad paint of the market. We don't really niche down with Facebook ads, and we've had a lot of success with that. Just hitting small to medium-sized business owners with a strong value proposition of a low price point to handle their social media with no contract gets us a lot of leads. So
nice. So even if you want to kind of bootstrap, that's a viable route. Or if
I think so. I mean, we're paying about $10 to $15 a lead right now.
That's pretty good.
It's very good. They've actually gotten better over the last couple months. Last year we experienced the iOS update, kind of killing retargeting on Facebook a little bit. And we definitely noticed, just a drop in value there with cost per lead, but it's really come back strong the last couple of months, which is exciting. I don't know what the big change was, but we've been seeing it across the board.
Yeah, I would be curious to know like what shifted there, because for folks listening who might not be fully aware, Apple had kind of locked down more privacy features. So retargeting within the device is a lot more difficult. Much to the chagrin of Facebook and others who rely on that, but it does offer an extra sense of privacy for those users. The downside is, from the marketing aspect of things, it's harder to track, and a lot of people have seen some hits in terms of their ad performance. So it's good to know what's going on, sort of peripheral in the marketing sphere, because this can affect how you acquire your leads.
But we weathered the storm, and things seem to be going very well again now for us in Facebook ads.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did this change how you started to like target or look for clients? Kind of what you mentioned, some verticalization or specialization. Have you pursued that in your portfolio, or do you focus more like generally?
Yeah, so we've focused more generally and have traditionally done so. We've attempted to niche down in the past, targeting real estate or dentists and what have you. And we got very similar results, if not lackluster results, compared to our generalization approach when it came to Facebook advertising. So time and time again, we've proved that for ourselves. Now, if I was a bootstrapper and I was out there prospecting, I would definitely niche down. I think it's a lot easier to get your pitch in a row. I think you're more focused. I think it's just easier to hit one type of business. If you're prospecting, you're not looking to spend a lot of money at the gate. You're looking to be profitable sooner than later. I think that's the way to go. But we have reseller clients that do very well niching down. We have a client that all they do is dry cleaners. All they do. Dry cleaning companies. I mean, it's the most boring industry in the world, but they're extremely profitable. They do very, very well. And, so it's not that it's not possible. Just I think with our value proposition, we do so well with the general approach.
Yeah. And I think really it's like you have to look at your business, who you serve, what your expertise is, or the expertise of your team in terms of like the content you create, how you can serve them, and really reaching their audiences. And yeah, depending on like when we first chatted, I was surprised because one of the trends we had seen is this like a shift for some agencies to more verticalization.
Sure.
But it's also really great to see that folks are finding a lot of success generalizing as well, and that's just as viable as a strategy.
And I'm fully aware of that trend, which is why we've tried it so many times, and we've even created websites dedicated to certain niches and verticalization. And we just weren't able to beat our general price points, on cost per lead and closing ratios. So, to me, the data is the data. And, while we do think these trends might work for us, sometimes they do not. So while we have tested it extensively, and not that we won't again, if we find something that beats the metrics, we'll definitely pursue it further.
Cool. I want to pull a question from Shane. I also want to mention, I forgot to say this at the beginning. We're going to set aside some time at the end for Q&A, so you can open up your questions. Feel free to post them in chat anyways, and we'll get to them, but just don't feel like we're ignoring you. But I do want to take this question from Shane. Shane's curious if 98buck handles any clients that have franchises. He's having difficulty retaining as they hit X amount of locations that's effective to in-house at a point. So you mentioned a little bit of that retention piece. So do you want to field Shane's question real quick?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Shane. And what I've seen in franchises is the most success we've had in franchises is actually having a negotiated deal with the franchisor itself, meaning that you have a relationship with their marketing department and they pretty much use you as their selected vendor for their franchisees. That's where we've had the best luck with franchise clients, is having that special relationship. So going right to their marketing department and starting to build that relationship has been the most fruitful. With that said, we have definitely worked with other franchisees that are not directly correlated to the franchisor. And, we've built relationships where we've gotten other franchisees just by word of mouth. So yes, I would say retention is definitely an issue because they tend to have their own in-house resources, or they'll embed the cost in their already negotiated marketing fees that they're charging the franchisee, which, it's hard to make a justification to spend money on something that you're already paying for on one hand. So I think there's a good mix. I say, there's no solid answer to that. I think franchises are a great opportunity. I would try and get to the franchisor if any way possible. And the franchisee is a great way to get there if you have a relationship with one. But yeah, I think there is a certain bit of resistance there because they tend to have their own in-house resources.
Shane, did we give you an answer that you can work with there?
I guess I wouldn't steer away from them, I guess, at the end of the day. But, I think if you're really going to spend time on a franchise, I would really do my best to get to the franchisor. Yeah.
And, like you said, franchisee is a great avenue for that and just building that relationship. But that makes sense. Like, go to the top if you can.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Well, let's stick to retention a little bit, because I think that's a really important part of this business model.
Sure.
After you've acquired your customers, like what does your onboarding process look like? How do you manage that?
Absolutely. And a bit of a caveat, I think there's always going to be a retention issue when dealing with small to mid-sized business owners. They're very cash sensitive. They don't have a lot of money. They're very picky. And sometimes you could do the best job in the world and not be able to retain the client. So with that caveat, the onboarding is, we take the sales process from the very beginning very seriously. We think that we don't just sell through our website and expect people to, trust us with their social media without ever talking to a human person. So everybody that submits information with 98 Bucks Social gets contacted by a dedicated salesperson, and we build a relationship with them right from the beginning. We want to know about them and their business and earn their trust, because they are entrusting us with their brand and how it's portrayed on social media. Once the deal is closed, we move them on to an onboarding specialist. So salespeople focus on sales, the upfront trust building, and the relationship. Once the deal is closed, we have an onboarding manager who takes the reins and gets everything we need to get set up with the account. So that's making sure that they're connected to Cloud Campaign, whether they have any technical issues or have any questions with that process, how to use the software itself. And I think that's important, because there are certain aspects of doing social media work where you might want to make sure they get the notifications that their credentials are expiring, or if any posts are failing. Not everybody, even though they're paying for social media as a service, is checking their social media every day. They can literally go months without ever looking at their social media. And if your posts are failing or it's not corrected, you're going to get an angry client in about a month or two wondering why their posts haven't been going through. So with that same vein, we relay that in the beginning. We think it's important that they understand how the software works, that education takes place, and then they're assigned to a social media manager and the posting starts.
Nice. So you kind of take what sounds like more of a white glove approach. They actually get attached to a brand manager or an onboarding manager to walk them through, get them up to speed, what to expect. So setting expectations, I think, is a really big piece of this model, because they're subscribing to a service. You might not know exactly what you're getting right away.
Absolutely.
But being able, to talk to somebody, have them do exploration, discovery on the brand to make sure that, whatever social strategy, content, hashtag campaigns that you're using is going to, meet their needs after you discover those. So does that sound like?
Absolutely. And what we often find is they don't get to ask all their questions on the sales call. Even though they bought and they ask questions and they think they know what they have, oftentimes once they get on the onboarding call, they have a whole nother slew of questions, which actually creates a great upsell opportunity as well. So our onboarding specialists are trained to be able to upsell. So a good example of this is, we post to, for example, 3 social media platforms for X price. And by the time they get to the onboarding manager, we find out they only have a Facebook. And, this includes posting to 3 platforms. Why don't you give us your Twitter or your Google My Business? Well, I don't have those. Well, you can create them. Oh, I don't have the time. Well, we'll set them up for you for a quick flat rate of $100. Sure, that sounds great. Just put it on my card. So that was a nice little upsell opportunity that the onboarding manager had. And we do that all the time.
Yeah. So as you're going through some of those discovery or even like post-discovery questions, as those things come up, you're able to identify new opportunities to add additional value, provide more value for these small business units that are just constrained for resources, just like a lot of us.
Yeah. And then we make sure they know they have a direct line to us with our support portal. If they just log onto our website, we have a link for them. They'll usually get a response within hours, 1 or 2 hours generally. Yeah, we're trying to be super fast. So we're not as proactive with calling them or setting up appointments because of our price points. It's cost prohibitive, but they have unlimited online support, and we take that very seriously.
Okay. So then after that initial onboarding, that handoff kind of goes on to continued support, access, check-ins, that sort of thing?
Correct.
Okay, cool. I'd be curious if you had to go back and do all this process again, what would you do differently? What mistakes did you make? What challenges did you butt up against? It's always fun to hear those stories because it's like, it's not as fun as saying, I built a successful, scalable business and it's great. Like, no, I want to know what sucked about that. So
it's very funny, and I bootstrapped 98 Bucks Social with literally no money, and it's now a multi-million-dollar company. And every time I've done that step along the way, it was a lot of work. But things have changed so much in the last 7 years. It's not necessarily that I would have done them different. I wish I would have had these when I started. So a couple of examples of that would be, we had no way of scheduling to Instagram. It just was not a thing. We literally had to log in and out of everybody's Instagram to be able to post for them. I wish we had
cloud. Were you having to do that for?
Hundreds of Instagram accounts.
I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah. So we just have lists of passwords, and luckily the security wasn't as tight back then. So we didn't have as many issues logging in and logging out as you do now, which is an absolute nightmare. But yeah, that was one big part. In the beginning, we had to get people's Facebook accounts because we had so many clients. Facebook wouldn't allow us to be the Facebook manager of several hundred pages. They wouldn't let you do it.
So you were just like hitting everybody's caps then, essentially.
Yes. Well, what happened in the beginning was we had an account with several hundred profiles, pages as the admin, and then they shut us down, and we literally lost access to all of those pages, and we had to contact client after client to get access to their Facebook page again.
Jeez.
So the next thing we thought, well, let's diversify. Let's have multiple Facebook accounts. And then one by one, we watched those Facebook accounts get shut down. And these are just, some of the perils that we walked the tight line with Facebook, because we were trying to figure out, it just wasn't designed for an agency like ours who handled hundreds of clients. It just wasn't. So we had a lot of issues, the same thing. And, I hate to mention them on a Cloud Campaign call, but I'll say it just once. Hootsuite was our provider before we joined Cloud Campaign, and we literally broke Hootsuite. We had so many clients loaded onto Hootsuite Enterprise, which we paid a lot of money for, where it wouldn't load, or it would take 45 minutes to load, and then you couldn't switch to another account because it would take another half hour to load because there were so many clients in there. And we had a long-term contract with them, and we were like, what do we do? And that's when we jumped ship. We joined Cloud Campaign, which has been fantastic ever since. And they ultimately let us out of our contract because of all the issues we had.
Yeah, well, I mean, I appreciate the kind of words there, but I mean, it kind of just underscores like making sure that as you're building these structures and these this business model, what's going to work for 98 Bucks Social and the tools and frameworks and strategies is going to look different than Shane's agency or Jennifer's agency, and that's fine. We're trying to talk about this high level enough where you can deploy the strategies and processes behind that, but like what tools you use, that's going to kind of depend on you. The last question I have for you before I want to open it up to some Q&A. So prep your questions for everyone. As you were putting together your white label offering, what were some of the factors that you considered as you built your value proposition?
So when you mention our white label offering, are you talking about offering 98 Bucks Social's services a white label, or white labeling Cloud Campaign as part of our
in terms of like white labeling Cloud Campaign as your offering and like communicating that to your audience or prospective customers? I'm just kind of curious, like your thought process of like, okay, I'm going to white label this. Now here's how I'm going to talk about it and sell it to my audience.
Yeah. So prior to us even white labeling Cloud Campaign, we had Cloud Campaign, but it wasn't white labeled, right? So we had to get their accounts loaded onto the Cloud Campaign. And so one of the big issues we were experiencing was in the onboarding process, where we weren't able to get some clients onboarded onto Cloud Campaign because they couldn't do it themselves yet. We didn't have that dashboard where they could log in and connect the accounts themselves. So while it was a small percentage, we were losing clients before they were ever onboarded because the process was so laborious. So now that we have the dashboard, communicating and conveying that onboarding is so much easier and faster and quick onboarding process, that was a big part of our communication strategy moving forward, was a seamless and easier onboarding strategy.
Okay.
Access to the content in advance was a big part of our communication. And also prior to having a dashboard, we'd get a lot of questions from potential clients. Do you have a dashboard? And the answer was ultimately no. And we didn't like that. So being able to say that we have a client dashboard was exciting for us.
Okay. So in terms of like communicating to new prospective customers? Is it more of like, oh, we've got an all-in-one stop solution, value-based with onboarding to make sure that in a dashboard, make sure that all your information is siloed and you know how to use it? Is that kind of the?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what they're most interested in is being able to see the content or have some type of control over what's going on, and just random posts aren't just popping up on their social media.
Mm-hmm. So just like more visibility into the process.
More visibility, more transparency into what's going on, and a little more ability to control. Not that everybody takes advantage of it, but the ones that do take it very seriously. So, that's a big part of what we emphasize to our clients, that, you can log into your dashboard, you can see your posts, you can see what's going on, et cetera.
And I mean, your company manages over thousands of clients, right?
Say it again. Sorry, I was reading the question. Somebody.
So your agency, you manage over 1,000 customers,
yes.
Right?
Yeah, well over 1,000.
So I imagine there's probably like a range of people who want like hold my hand versus like, nah, I've got most of this. Is that?
Yeah, there's a massive spectrum, and we appeal to all of them with, we have levels 1 through 4, with our level 1 catering to those that kind of want something hands off, and the level 4 being something that's a little more hand holding. So, and yes, it crosses the board, and some people want the white glove hands-on service for the level 1 price. So what often happens is they'll buy the level 1 and then they'll be expecting higher level service, and we have to try and walk them up that value ladder to see why they should be paying a little more for that type of service.
Right. Okay. So you use like more of a tiered system so people can kind of opt into whatever package is going to work best for them.
Correct. And they can scale up and scale down, so some people are a little nervous in the beginning and they would like a little more hand holding, the approval process. Hey, I don't want anything going out without me approving it first. Okay, no problem. We can do that for the first month, the first 2 months. And then once you're comfortable with us and your social media manager, we can scale that back. We can shave off half the price and take out the approval process.
Nice. And I know I said I had one last question, but now I really have one last question.
Sure.
And it is, so a big part of this, I think one of the most powerful pieces of this model that can really just like accelerate your growth is being able to have your customers resell on your behalf. Can you just talk a little bit about that? Like how you've managed that and maybe some of the success you've seen there?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've had a ton of success since we launched the white label reseller service several years ago.
And could you actually describe your program just so people know like what this actually is?
Yeah. So pretty much it's our exact services on our website. And we teach our resellers to sell it as is. So we tell them to sell our level 1, which is $98 a month. It's 3 posts a week, custom content, unlimited online support. And we tell them to mark it up by 100 to 200%. So the reseller's paying $98 and they're charging oftentimes $298. They pay us $98 and they pocket $200. We do all the work and they just maintain the communication with the client. And then it's scalable from there. They have a larger client that's, willing to pay $500, $600, $700. We give them a higher level of service and they essentially pocket the difference, marking up our services.
Nice. So the more people you have out there on your behalf selling, clearly it adds up to a lot of revenue over time. And that's,
it's amazing. We have other agencies, we have other companies that just provide general services. One of our biggest resellers is a software company for moving companies. And they just have this great software and they have these great relationship with moving companies. They brought on almost 100 independent local moving companies over to 98 Bucks Social at their level 1 price, our level 1 price. But you do the numbers real quick, it adds up pretty nicely. And it's just incredible. And they're great clients. We never have to talk to anybody. We deal with just one person and we have no issues. It's quite phenomenal.
I mean, you can't sneeze at that.
Yeah.
Let's shift over to Q&A because Kevin's posted a question. I want to make sure everybody has a chance to ask theirs.
I think Deb had a question too.
Yeah, Deb had one. How do you present Cloud Campaign as your own software tool? You have a license. We covered this a little bit, but I'd be curious to hear maybe another crack at it.
Yeah, so for the most part, we present it as our software. It's labeled 98 Bucks Social. The link is app.98buckssocial.com to get into their dashboard. It says 98 Bucks Social everywhere, has our colors on it. They get emails from 98 Bucks Social from the dashboard. With that said, we have no problem saying that Cloud Campaign is the software provider and backbone of our dashboard. So we don't really hide that fact of it. We don't really care, we have a great relationship with Cloud Campaign. We have, favorable relationship. So, we don't hide that fact, but we don't just come out and say that. If they're interested or want to know how it works, we dive into it a little more. But yeah, we do present it as 98 Bucks Social software.
Yeah. And also, Chris, we appreciate that you're open about sharing that you build on our platform, which is great for us. But it's also like other agencies, they do not want anybody to know we exist. And that's totally okay. Like as you're building your unique offering and building your, a portfolio in terms of your agency services, if you really want to keep it close to the vest, that's totally fine. And we help you with that. And we make sure that we can maintain that for you. Hopefully that answered your question, Deb. If you have any follow-ups, please pop them into the chat. And also let me see if I can share my screen real quick. I'll just do entire screen. Because I can kind of show you real fast, like what it looks like when you do white label the software. Not everybody might have theirs white labeled, but this is my instance of the software. So I've been able to change the colors, change the logo, and as you go through, you can do like your reports and everything will also be customized, which is really neat to make sure that the software is reflecting your brand and your value.
Yeah, it looks great. It's sleek, it's clean, it's very easy to use, great user experience. It's very nice.
All right. So Kevin, where is it? How do you and your social management team address putting efficiencies and automations in place for content creation? What do you use maybe outside of Cloud Campaign to make content creation more efficient or less manual? This is a question that I'm excited about. I love this stuff.
Yeah, so you might not like my answer, but my answer is that I think I'm of the opinion, at least now, technology is not in a place to create an equal or comparable work product than an actual human being. I think there's a lot of discretion involved in deciding what to create. There's a lot of feedback involved from what a client wants and tastes. There's a lot of visual cues to take into consideration when picking an image and comparing it to the caption to be written. I just think there's so many variables. I have yet to see something that automatically creates content. Now I see his follow-up here, sources to find content ideas. I think the best content idea creator I've ever used, I've been doing this a long time, is Google. And I call it smart Google searches. So if you kind of think of it as like a tree, what's the most general thing at the top and getting more specific and from there. So a good example of that is, say you have a client that creates roofs. I wouldn't just type roofing into Google. I would type, if I was in Florida, interesting metal roof facts, and I get very granular with my Google search. And I can create some engaging, interesting content around that. Just some, random, really granular stuff around roofing to make some more interesting stuff. But Google just is such a wealth of information. You're one search away from, another thing I like to do is, there's so many top 10 articles. If you find a good top 10 article in any industry, you can pull any one of those little nuggets and turn it into a social media post on its own, standing on its own.
Yeah. Also, depending on like what your subject matter is or who you're serving, setting up just Google alerts, depending on certain factors, you can have things pulled for you based on parameters, which is nice. RSS feeds that you mentioned are also a really good source. To toot our own horn, we have some features built in Cloud Campaign, the recommendations features, which actually helps you with this. So there's a tool set in there that lets you search Google for news articles in a similar fashion to how Chris mentioned. You can just type those into the query like hashtags and filter the results. The nice thing about that is you can just click and it goes straight into your content queue. so you can edit it and schedule it for posting. But another way that I like to use, or another way that I streamline my content creation is I use RSS importing. So for blogs, I'll pull stuff from our blogs or other blogs as posts within our own tool to kind of quickly generate content. And then kind of what Chris said, going through, finding little nuggets and little snippets. I have a spreadsheet, a CSV spreadsheet that I just will pop those into. And then when I've got enough, maybe around a certain theme or topic, I can just import all of those all at once. Find relevant images using Pexels, free stock image library that's built into Cloud Campaign or Unsplash or some other sources. And then that's helped me create a lot of content very quickly. Outside of other tools like Copy AI I've used and played with, which is fun. But I think to Chris's point, like there really is no substitute for human intuition, expertise, and strategy sometimes when creating this content. So I think we want to find efficiencies, but also want to make sure that like the content is solid.
Yeah. Another thing we use, Chris, is a content calendar, just to make sure that we're on track with keeping the posts varied, but also sticking to some type of schedule. So Monday could be, an industry fact. Tuesday could be just a really super engaging polling question. Wednesday could be just something product or promotional, and then pulling from there as well. So you make sure you're sticking to your marketing. What you're really trying to stick to is your marketing plan and what type of communications you're trying to get out there, and then plugging in the post based on that.
Yeah. And depending on your relationship with your clients, I really, as much as possible, love to get them involved. They're going to know their own customers better than you. They're going to know their strategies better than you. And if you, not everybody's going to be up for it, but if you can give them a hand in that content creation piece, whether it's using approvals, we've got that built into Cloud Campaign or whatever approval process you use, having that direct communication and having their input, I think helps you make stronger content that's going to actually deliver results or better results, hopefully. Cool. And thanks for shouting out Chris's team as well.
Sarah's a fan favorite, I'll tell you what. Everybody loves.
All right. Well, the sun is beaming right into my face.
I think Jennifer had one more question here.
We have one more question. Do we?
What challenges do you face in terms of the actual content creation, what the client provides versus what they expect?
Oh, thanks for catching that one.
So it's a great question. Sometimes we'll nail it right out of the gate. They tell us what they want, we fulfill, and they're just over the moon. Some clients, no matter how hard we try, we never make happy. So most clients obviously fall somewhere in the middle of that. What I found that helps is sometimes a lot of clients don't know how to provide constructive feedback. All they know is that they don't like it, right? And that doesn't help us create better content. That just tells us they don't like it. So sometimes we do a little coaching, what don't you like about the content? What would you have liked instead? What is something that you're looking for that we're not providing, and just kind of coaching them a little bit on how to provide constructive feedback, because not everybody knows how to intuitively do that. I know we might take it for granted sometimes, but what I found is that's just a skill that some people really haven't developed yet. So, as a business owner, we learn it really quick, especially if you have employees, you learn it really, really quick. But, just being sensitive to that and maybe coaching them a little bit to how to provide and relay and emphasize what they're looking for a little better, more constructively.
Yeah, that feedback piece is so important. We actually just did a workshop a couple weeks ago, like within our team, on how to provide feedback to each other, because it is like critical. Did we answer your question there, Jennifer? Because I think the reality is, like, very rarely is it a first try type of thing. Sometimes you'll throw a dart at the board and see how close you get. You might have to iterate on it. And I think that's a natural part of the process as you learn a brand, but then over time you get more accurate with each cast of content.
For sure. And we typically play it on the conservative side with a new client as well. We play it really, really safe, just to kind of ease into the situation a little bit and not try and get too off the cuff. And as we get more comfortable with the client, we can explore creativity a little more and get, a little more advanced with what we create. Overarchingly, that works to our benefit, but every once in a while we'll get the client that says, this isn't creative enough. I thought I could do this myself, and that's generally because we played it safe in the beginning. And then we'll kick it up a notch if they even let us at that point. But it happens. We try and play some passes.
When you say play it safe, is it just sticking to more toward what they've posted in the past?
Exactly. Pulling information from their website, just sticking to their branding, as it's relayed on their website. So much, in fact, they'd be like, well, this is just like my website. I can do this. I should say 9 times out of 10, people like that type of post to start. It's safe. They can see it. They're already going to like it because it's already consistent with what they've done in the past. But it come up once in a while.
And I think just like sometimes we as marketers and agencies just have to have thick skin.
Yeah, without a doubt.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap up our chat for today. Chris, thank you so much for carving this time out and sharing your expertise with everyone. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Can you let folks know where they can find you, or especially the 98 Buck Academy?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can check us out at 98bucksocial.com. I'll put it here in the links at the bottom. And I'll also put a link to the Academy. We also can do a free trial of the Academy for anybody that mentions this broadcast. So just mention you saw us on Cloud Campaign, shoot us an email or message, and we'll get you access to the Academy. You get 1 week for free. So if you like it, great, stick around. If not, no problem.
That is awesome. I didn't know you were going to offer that. So thank you. That's exciting.
Absolutely.
And if you, go ahead.
I'm just typing it into the.
Oh, gotcha. And if you're interested in Cloud Campaign or building a scalable agency, hop on over to cloudcampaign.io and jump on a trial or a demo with our team, and we will help you understand what this model is and give you the tools and resources you need to start jamming on it on your own. That's it for our chat today with the Agency Mastery Series. We hope you got a lot out of it, and we'll be sending out a recorded version of this shortly. So thanks so much, everyone, and we will catch you next month.
Thanks all for listening. Thanks, Chris. See you guys later.
Chris, thank you.
Yep, bye.